G'day, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to another podcast. And today I'm with Nadene Canning, and Nadene and I are going to talk about regeneration. How are you, Nadene?
I'm feeling relaxed, actually, because I'm sitting in a beautiful green space and I can hear birds. It's the middle of the day and I'm feeling very relaxed.
Well, I'm glad about that. And we've decided that we're going to make a series of podcasts around this subject of regeneration. We feel it's pretty important at the moment. Maybe you can just share with us in this first podcast a bit about yourself before we get into talking about regeneration.
I think regeneration for me has been a long time coming in that I was everything but regeneration. I was more of a commando, just having a lot of stressful projects to manage at the same time and pushing through. And I realized that pushing through is not the greatest way to show up, and spent time, well, let's say in the dark night of the soul. It wasn't really a pleasant experience. Rebooting, understanding how I wanted to craft the things that I love doing in a way that brings me joy and gives me energy instead of taking my energy. So it's really about that symbiotic relationship that I have with thinking, being, doing, and acting.
Yeah. And you've done a lot of work with people over your career and your life, supporting people travel journeys, their own journeys. And with this concept of regeneration, we've decided we're going to talk about it because I think we have a common sort of idea of it, this idea of, we looked up, of course, you look up the dictionary, what does regeneration mean? Regrow, restore in a way. These are, all the re-words. And we've got a sense, I know we've got a common shared sense that the world needs a bit of this regeneration now. Everyone's a bit crazy, everyone's stretched thin, a lot of people are overwhelmed. A lot of people are out of balance, in terms of they're busy thinking and doing and not spending enough time perhaps feeling and being connected to their spiritual side. So this sense of balance is, for me anyway, this idea of regeneration is to help people come back into balance. What is it for you?
So in French there's this expression called habiter, when something just is on your mind all the time. And balance was something that was on my mind all the time when I was running a company, had 2 young children, going to school, and questioning just this more. And one of my mentors said to me, have you considered removing things from your to-do list? Which sounded very simple, but it was something that I never thought about. And would I allow myself to do that? Would I be able to, how would I function if I wasn't totally, full on all the time? And so it was a really slow rewind process of taking a step back, checking in with my body, because very often my body would be sending me signs of, back issues or knee issues, and paying a lot more attention to what balance looked like. And the thing about it is that it changes. As we go through different phases, seasons, life, what we look for, what I was looking for in balance is different. Does that answer your question?
I think it does, yeah. And this question of balance for me is really important because this concept of regeneration can, in some ways, be a little bit vague in the sense, well, regenerate to what? Where are you going? What's your destination with regeneration? And I'm comfortable with not having a destination. Let's just go on a journey. But it does seem to me that this concept of getting yourself back in some balance, and it's so interesting what you were saying about the physical pains and things that you are suffering. I know so many people who go through that and really hurt themselves and end up in all sorts of, they're in hospital, all sorts of challenges. They go to this doctor and that doctor. At the end of the day, a lot of it's just stress.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That we're not paying attention to, or that we're pushing down.
Right.
Or taking pills.
Right.
Or having too many cocktails.
Exactly. Trying to kill the pain.
Yeah.
But the pain's there, and the pain's a symptom of being out of balance.
Absolutely.
And so regeneration to balance seems to me to be something that's really important. And it feels to me in the world right now the world, we are so many people out of balance. I often talk about people are so motivated, not inspired. They're so inspired in their work. Inspired may be the wrong word. Pushed is the better word.
Yeah.
Forced and bludgeoned into being the most intelligent person in the room. They're rewarded for that. Doing the best thing.
Performance at all costs. Absolutely.
Performance at all costs. And this starts when little ones first go to school. You get a gold star for, having the best picture in your art class, or to have the best English text or whatever. And so we're always rewarded. We get a sugar rush of reward when we do or think in a way that someone else reckons is good.
And it's often something that I see a lot in business, in that those high performers are often perfectionists.
Yeah.
And they are rewarded for being a perfectionist. And they're not necessarily really good at saying no.
Right.
And so the whole regeneration and balance is not something that they pay attention to. And I think you can run on that adrenaline of being highly performant and having perhaps the attention of that badge for so long. The way I look at it now is different, in that it's things, speaking with teams and people, it's where their energy comes from. And if they don't have any energy, then we need to have the balance.
Yeah.
We have to look at and talk about it and dig into where has it gone.
Yeah. My sense is that people are incentivized to do and to think, to be the most intellectual and to do the best things. And they get rewarded for that with bonuses, high salaries, promotions, and they get social status from that. They get the biggest house, the fastest, most beautiful car, all of these things. And yet their emotional side, their feelings just get squashed down. And of course, if you talk about your emotions in a workplace, you're weak, something wrong with you. But if you talk about your spiritual side, your fundamental beliefs, and I don't mean religion when I talk about that. It can be. Yeah. In fact, maybe there's a more tolerance of people to talk about religion. But once you get into that spiritual thing, you start talking about being connected to yourself or connected to nature. It's like, weird, we can't talk about that. Just block that away. Any sense of talking about, the S word, soul. It's like, oh dear, what's happened? They've lost the plot somewhere along the way. And so I think of these four threads, our intellectual, our practical, our feelings and our beliefs. You might say mental, physical, emotional and spiritual. You might say, mind, body, heart and soul.
Absolutely.
These are four threads that are woven together, and what happens in one affects the other.
Absolutely.
And yet we only water two gardens. We only water the intellectual and the practical. And so the emotional and the spiritual, particularly the spiritual, just withers away. It's still there, it doesn't go away, but we have a very unbalanced braid. I see these as a braid, all braided together.
I think the emotional piece, I was listening to a podcast this morning about how this is an industrial revolution. Historically, we've just, we're supposed to come to work and be machines. So we're moving away from that. But what I see more now is speaking to people who have all of these emotions. They are going, because we are emotional beings, and they don't trust these emotions. And once we start, or once we allow ourselves to pay attention to what's going on inside of us, it's data. It's an amazing source of data, which allows us to be more connected to who we are, to who others are, and to everything that is around us. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a three-step, program, because it isn't.
No.
But I believe that, we are everything that's on this planet. We're part of it. Yeah. And that's a diversity and a richness and an expansiveness that I find extremely, I don't even think motivating is the right word. It goes beyond that.
It's beyond inspiring, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about when we think about regeneration, right? I think you've captured it beautifully, and we've come to our where we wanted to. We don't want to talk for the next 4 hours. We do want to talk about this for the next 5 years, but we want to come at this in small bite-sized pieces. And so this is a great place, great moment. I think you've captured it beautifully, Nadene. Just to wrap up this small first conversation, that for us, regeneration is about tapping into that and being connected to that broad universe and all of the... And it's not to say walk away from the mind and the intellectual. We've still got to do. We've still got to think, and how wonderful it is that we can. But let's find that balance and let's find our path back to that through this concept of regeneration.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Nadene.